Welcome to Coast Creatives, a podcast for and about working professional artists within the entertainment industry. I'm Torrin Cavens Flores, and along with my co-host Joe Funk, we interview actors, directors, photographers, writers, and many, many more. In this episode, we'll be talking with actor, producer, and comedy writer John Babcock. John writes for stage and screen and also with Sketchworks Comedy here in Atlanta. He's also a founding member of Performing Arts Education of Georgia, a program that goes to schools to better educate youth on the business side of the entertainment industry. And we were in a play together for 5 months, so I can also say from experience that he is a heck of a performer. Let's get into it with John Babcock. How's it going today, John?
It's going well.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're excited to have you. John is swiftly becoming one of my best friends.
That's right.
Yeah. He's not there yet.
I'm working on it, man.
There's a whole process for it.
And the paperwork.
Yeah, it's just, and the filing system I have is just crap.
I have to talk to you about your fees for that.
Well, we can talk about that later.
Okay.
So let's get past all the riffing or else this is going to take forever. All right.
You're the one editing.
Oh, I know. I am very aware of that. So we have John Babcock here today, and we are going to talk about everything the industry and probably some things not, because that's what John and I do. But like Joe just said, I'm the editor, so take it easy, guy.
Will do.
Okay. All righty. So let's start off by talking about the Performing Arts Education of Georgia.
Yeah. It's a nonprofit that I started with two other people, Maria Liatis and Michael Gorglione, as a way of kind of reaching out and educating and informing and entertaining, hopefully, people about what the industry kind of looks like in Georgia. I think, and I use the example of my mother because she knows nothing of, the industry. So when she, sees that, oh, it's a $5 billion a year or whatever it is, in Georgia, to her mind, I think she thinks that, they come here, they shoot the films, the television shows, and then they all leave. When it's not that, a lot of the people working behind the scenes and, on the camera, they live in Georgia. It's people working on these productions, by and large, for the most part, kind of reside in the state somewhere. And so they're your neighbors, and they're, you can bump into them at the store or what have you. So it was a way of kind of creating a nonprofit to help us kind of expand and go into schools and produce a segment that airs across the state on Georgia Public Broadcasting called Georgia Actors, where I sit down and talk to kind of working actors in Georgia who've either started here and gone away, but then come back, or have lived here their entire lives, and what that looks like to them, and to kind of show people what that life is like. Because there's plenty of places to kind of help actors with classes, or to hone their craft, or even if they're crewing, that kind of stuff. But letting them know what is the reality of your day to day as a performing artist or working actor in Georgia. What does that mean? Because I don't think a lot of people have that information or education, when they start, like, I want to be an actor. I enjoy it. I'll take some classes. I'll audition. Then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your day going to be?
There's so much that they don't teach you. Torrin and I both have theater degrees. Mm-hmm. And when you get out of school, when you get out of university, you don't know how to do a self-tape audition. You don't know necessarily what's a slate shot. Mm-hmm. What is my job as an actor? You understand all of the different types of Shakespearean bows that you have to do for for performances, but as far as being a career actor, you don't really have a great concept of how that looks.
Right. It almost kind of blows my mind that there's no class for that at all.
Yeah.
It's all performative, which is great. We all need that, but there's no class for the business side of it. And I think it's really important what you're doing, especially here in Georgia, since comparatively the industry is really new. to this state. And, you know, a lot of people are interested in acting. And it's like, well, I live in Georgia. I'm going to start it. So they're all very new, very green. They haven't really, you know, dealt with it at all. They don't know what they're in for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, we were talking about this before on the way to one of our rehearsals, I think, of just the kids you talk to and all the questions they have.
Right.
And it spans like this huge gap of ignorance. And, you know, you hear ignorance and it maybe conjures a you know, like a bad image, but there's nothing wrong with ignorance. They just haven't been educated.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of those questions that these kids have asked?
Yeah. Recently, which we got to go to a high school, and I brought along Karen Ceesay, who's an actress in town who's worked on Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Black Lightning, The Last Vegas or whatever that one's called, as well as John Carr, who used to be the artistic director for Dad's Garage here in town, was also executive producer at the Second City in Chicago, and has now come back. And then Allie O'Neill, who is with IATSE Force 79, because they wanted somebody to talk about kind of, you know, production, and she does props and setting and all that kind of stuff. So got them on a panel at this high school, and we were there most of the day. We did like 4 sessions with, you know, 4 different classes. But the kids, once they got past the tell me about Stranger Things to Karen, they were asking, you know, a lot of questions about, well, how do you get an agent, and how do you get on set, and just kind of real basic stuff, and you know, how do you get other jobs and things along those lines. And it came down to a lot of, well, you know, classes are kind of your best friend. Not only are you honing your craft, you're also networking. That's how you meet other people and making connections, and then you'll get remembered by this one person who wants you to do something for them on this other project, and you know, you may think of somebody. So it was just you know, kind of telling them to be aware of, you know, what they have at their school, and definitely take advantage of that, because this school had not only a theater department, they had a film department with like 4K cameras and editing equipment. They submitted a short to a festival and got accepted. So we were all like, you guys need to take wholly advantage of everything you have here at your disposal.
Not something any of the 3 of us have had, like back in the day when we went to school. Like,
none of that.
I mean, a department with 4K cameras and editing software. I mean,
yeah.
Try like VCR to VCR, tape to tape editing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, their questions was basically around that, and like, what do we do when we kind of get out of, you know, what should be our next step? What should we be looking at? And so it was great to talk to them about all of that, and the opportunities that are here and are opening up, and the attention that, you know, Georgia, that Atlanta is getting from the film. And even their instructor was like, you know, if this were like a one factory town, you know, there'd be people coming in from the factory to kind of teach the kids about, okay, well, you know, we need this worker to on the line, the assembly, blah, blah, blah. But because there's nobody really doing that with the industry, with the film and television industry, going out to kind of talk to acting students about, okay, well, this is what it looked like. This is how you behave on set. You know, don't get so loose and you're taking selfies everywhere and, you know, acting, you know, like, well, this is so much fun. No, this is work. And more than anything, it was a lot of be courteous, be friendly, because word travels so fast in this industry. If you're difficult to work with, or a jerk, or anything like that, you really need to know your stuff, show up on time, even earlier, and just be polite, do what's asked of you, and, you know, you'll go far. Versus, hey, what if you had an idea for a different line or changing the script? And it's like, that never happens. No, they don't want any of that on set. It's already gone through. The people who know the writing have done the writing. You're just there to kind of speak the lines. Maybe, you know, your inflection or, you know, what have you, but, you know, those are the lines. That's what you need to focus on. So
yeah, especially if you're a day player, and it's like, no, you don't do that. Like, talking to the director and changing the lines, that's a long road to travel. to become friends with Quentin Tarantino or Steven Spielberg.
Right.
Have that relationship.
So I think I know that the students got a lot from hearing all of them talk, and I know that even the panel learned a lot, from them, just got inspired to see, the excitement of the kids talking about what they want to do next. One of the students we all remembered because she talked about that this summer she's shooting a pilot. She had written a pilot script, and what advice did we have? And we were like, that's fantastic that you have that. Definitely do like read-throughs with the actors so they're familiar with the text. Pre-production is your best friend. Go to your locations and ahead of time and know where your shots are going to be rather than just showing up and going, well, we could put it over here. We all had horror stories of like showing up on set and like nobody knowing what to do or having scouted the place the day before or anything like that. And like, you're just wasting everybody's time in that sense. So that's been, to bring it back with performing arts education in Georgia, that's kind of the education that we're talking about. For people who aren't in the industry to understand what actors or anybody involved with the industry is going through on a day-to-day basis in Georgia. And then also people interested in it. This is the reality of your day-to-day life is.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it really is important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I agree. It's very important work. I want to know what draws you to this kind of work. Why are you inspired to be giving this information essentially for free to students and artists who are the future? Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
Good question. I've always, I've kind of always enjoyed helping and giving a leg up to other people. In that sense, I've seen too many examples of myself and other people who have reached out to try to, get some information or help and have been like, resoundingly rejected. Don't ask me that. What, who are you? All that kind of, that kind of stuff. And I just have always enjoyed kind of helping and spreading information that I have to other people so that maybe they're not struggling or floundering. I don't understand when that isn't shared. I think it comes from maybe a place of insecurity. Like not wanting, hey, why would I give them information to then just perhaps get better than me and push me out of the way? I don't understand that.
And that's something that I bring up to a lot of actors that I work with for headshots. When they ask about the difference between Los Angeles and Atlanta, I do say that there is an energy here where people like to share information. They like to help people up who are coming up in the industry behind them. And in, you could say, a more competitive market like Los Angeles, where there's a lot of people, you're doing free work, you're doing unpaid work, you're doing intern work, and a lot of people don't want to give up this information. They don't want to help younger people, and it's something really, really nice to see here. On your website, you are specifically talking about actors when you reference this, but you talk about how, specifically through the show that you do, the public access show, you talk about the triumphs of landing the role, the frustration of auditioning, work-life balance, working a second job to make ends meet. And through all of this, you're talking about the reality of being a professional working actor. Yeah. Why is it important to provide this information to everyone out there?
Well, I think it's so that people kind of go in knowing the full picture, know what you're getting into. It's, it's great that you have that and you want to, do everything you want to do creatively, get in the industry, but go in there knowing exactly what that means. It isn't just saying you're an actor, finding an agent, first finding an agent. You're gonna that's a trek, and before finding an agent, what are you doing to on the creative side? I mean, typically that's hopefully the reason everybody's getting into acting, performing, what have you, is to express some creativity. So what before you start getting on those sets, where are you channeling that energy so you're not just kind of going stir crazy, that type of thing?
And they need to understand that this is a lot of work and it is a job. Mm-hmm. It's a job on top of a job. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to have this mindset, I'm imagining. If you're growing up nowadays, it's easy to have this mindset where it's all glitz and glamour, and it's fantastic. You can get TikTok or YouTube famous overnight, and they don't understand that it is very much a boots on the ground profession, and you need to be working on your craft the whole time. A lot of people say, I don't really want to take any more classes. I went to school for this. I already have a degree in this.
Yeah.
What is the importance of classes?
Importance of classes is not only to kind of keep your tool sharp, but also to, as I mentioned earlier, networking, to meet other people and make those connections so that, you're remembered for this other person is doing this thing and they need somebody and are you available? All that kind of stuff. It's probably 50-50 honing your craft and keeping your instrument sharp, and then also the networking angle of making connections and expanding your horizon, if you will, and gaining inspiration from those around you, from what they're doing. There's so many people that I've met, not only acting but also writing, where I'm like, oh, I really admire what they did there, and how can I incorporate that or make what I'm doing better. So that's the importance of classes.
Yeah, we'll get personal for 1 second here. I'm curious if we could just go back in time, and you were hearing all of this information back when you're starting your acting career.
Yeah.
What piece did you want the most? Because I find that there's always one bit that people are a little adverse to. I find a lot of it's the networking. They don't want to do the networking, or they don't want to do the classes, or they don't want to do this. Is there something where you're like, I can work around that? Is there something that you needed to hear back then?
I would think it would be that networking angle, because a lot of times, well, for me, if you're hearing networking, then it's like this big empty room with a lot of people I don't know, and I have to go around and say hi and introduce myself. Classes are a way of kind of circumventing that, because as you're learning and meeting other people, that's the networking part of it, where you're not just standing there going, okay, how do I make small talk with all these people, and who should I talk to? Oh, this person is getting a lot of attention, I don't want to go over there. It's a way of networking without networking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And without that scary networking part.
Yeah. And it's important for folks to know that there are many different networking opportunities.
Yes.
There are some that are what you're describing, where they're like industry nights. We're doing this event here, or we're meeting up at bars or something like that. And you're not going to gel with everyone.
Right.
So it's find what works best for you. And that might be a class.
Mm-hmm. And that certainly might be a class, or going to a festival, or
exactly. The options are out there. It's not just one way to do it. Class is a great way to do it. Meeting up in industry nights, I understand, can be a little daunting, because I'm not a huge fan of crowds. So I get it, but anybody listening out there who's starting out, there are a ton of options for you to network, and class is a great way to do that.
Yeah, because even the instructors are people who have been doing this a while and can spot people and go, hey, there's this opportunity. You should try it out. You should go for it.
So how often do you go into schools and have these panels?
We just did our first one ever. It's schools are kind of tough because there's so many. They want to make sure the right people are coming in and everything, and it's tough to kind of make connections. So we just did our first one this past May, which was, like I said, just a lot of fun for everybody involved in that. And hopefully the connection we made at the one high school can help us get into other schools, because we do. I think that is now, we've done about 12 of the Georgia Actors episodes that air on Georgia Public Broadcasting. That's the next part of our evolution for our nonprofit is direct connection with working artists in Georgia with high school kids.
So ideally, how often would you like to go in? You're in the planning phases right now. You've had the first go round. Mm-hmm. How often would you like to get in there?
Love to do like a quarterly thing.
Yeah,
once a quarter. I think that's a good pace for everybody, because it can get a lot, and then that can be all that you're doing if you're doing like a monthly thing. But I think a quarterly thing would be nice. And it doesn't always have to be like a panel. This just one school wanted a panel. But even if we just had like one person come in and kind of talk, I think that's enough too.
Have you thought about doing Instagram Live or a Facebook Live event where you could have a virtual panel and folks could ask questions on there?
Yeah, we thought about doing that, like a Zoom, like a free Zoom, something like that. Yeah,
a
webinar.
That could be cool
That's
too.
the word.
Yeah. So let's go back to on the website again. It says you talk about why choose acting, and particularly why here in Georgia. So I'm going to flip that on you. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose acting, and why Georgia?
I think I chose acting because I would say I kind of gravitated towards it. It was always of interest, even as like a kid, 12, 13 years old. That was always something that I kind of gravitated toward. But not only gravitated toward because I enjoyed it, but also enjoyed like learning and studying about it as well. It was like the full picture that I found it to be something that I really enjoyed doing and had an affinity for, and liked, doing plays at school and even doing my own backyard plays and all that kind of stuff. So it was always something that was a fun thing to do, and even a little bit with writing as a kid, coming up with scenes and stuff like that. I don't know, because no one in my family has any type of connection with acting or anything like that. It was just me observing, going, this is fun, and also learning, particularly gravitating towards comedy. And like, I remember going to the library as like a kid and getting out a book about like Abbott and Costello and learning about those kind of guys and how they came up and that type of stuff too. So that was always interesting to me. And as a kid, when like my parents would have friends come over, I would always make it a goal to make them laugh. Each time some new group came over, make somebody laugh, and it was like, okay, I got that, without like running into a wall or anything like that. So yeah, and it's always something. And even when, like for a while there, I was working at a bank when it was actually time to make money. But I always had like my foot still in something creative and performing, because I needed to just have that, get it out of my system.
For our vast youth audience listening, because
I dropped Abbott and Costello.
I was going to say that John had to read a book about Abbott and Costello. He couldn't just watch like a YouTube featurette.
What's a library?
What's a library? It's a place that you go that has information.
Like Wikipedia.
Like Wikipedia, only a building. A big building, brick and mortar Wikipedia.
And a little more reputable. Sorry, Wikipedia.
So you've lived in Atlanta since the late 80s. Mm-hmm. So you have witnessed a lot of the film and TV industry moving here. So I imagine Atlanta now is very different than how it was in the 90s.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
There's just a larger community. I think at the time it was very a small community of like performing artists and actors, and there was a couple of theaters in town that people kind of gravitated towards to hone their craft and to as a place, as an outlet. And the occasional, like I remember in the 80s, In the Heat of the Night was a show that was shot kind of in the Atlanta metro area, and a lot of actors would go out and get small roles on that, and occasionally a film, that kind of stuff. But now it's just blown up. I forget when they actually put into place those tax benefits, but it's just expanded, and now people are actually moving to Atlanta to pursue a performance career, an acting career, or in Georgia in general. So yeah, back then it was just a smaller community, and they all kind of basically knew one another. It was just a more intense and smaller group. And now it's, they're actors that not everybody knows, and but are still doing the circuit and everything. So it was, Karen Cisse in one of the interviews says, because she started she had an agent back in the maybe late 90s, early aughts, but anyway, saying she just remembers them hearing her agent say, "Don't worry, a lot of work is coming, like for years and years," and then finally, boom.
Is it a bit surreal for you to witness this change, to have people like us moving across the country to be here for work?
Sons of guns.
Yes, yeah, it is very odd to think of Atlanta of Atlanta or Georgia in that way, as being a industry entertainment hub.
Yeah, yeah.
It is very strange to think of it like that.
And going back to educating the high school kids, it's also important to let them know that you can work here as an actor. You can have an amazing career here, because even if you're young, you're born and raised here, a lot of them still have this idea of, I have to go to Los Angeles or I have to go to New York City. It's not necessarily the case. And it's not just Atlanta. There's a bunch of cities that you could live in. So it's important to pass along this information.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things with our nonprofit that we like to explain and to share, is you can have a performance career, an acting career in Georgia, and do well at it and build up a resume, and you don't have to travel, as you just said, across the country, someplace else. That can all be attained right here.
That's the thing, is getting past the stigma that is LA and New York. I talked to someone, I'm not sure, maybe an Uber driver the other day, that they just really didn't know that so much shot here, that so much work is here. They just didn't know. They're like, oh, so why aren't you in Los Angeles or New York? Nothing's really happening here. And I was like, actually, yeah, it's crazy that still a lot of people just don't know.
No, and that's one of the reasons, to go into the schools to let the kids know, up and coming performers, but then also our segment, which airs on Georgia Public Broadcasting, which goes across the state. I mean, they're kind of seen everywhere from like North Georgia to Savannah and Augusta, and so it's really nice to kind of have the segments run on their network so that it can be seen widely across the state of Georgia. And they have sent on like emails from people who have watched, who wanted to learn more about not only acting but voiceover. We talked to a voiceover artist as well, and also stunts. All different type of things that you can do and accomplish here. But yeah, that's part of the education part, not only for other actors but people like your Uber driver, to let them know, hey, this is an entertainment benchmark here. There's a lot going on.
So let's talk a little bit about Georgia Actors, the show that you host, where you sit one-on-one with actors and talk to them about the craft. Where can people find this show?
Well, it's broadcast on Georgia Public Broadcasting, which is a TV station that still broadcasts a signal and shows, your Sesame Street and
publicly
and the like publicly, yeah. Well, I mean, they're on cable systems and things along that line. It's Channel 8 in Atlanta locally, but then also if you have like I have like an HD antenna, you can just pick it up over the air, hook it up to your high def television. So yeah, it's just kind of like all the local. It's a local PBS station in Atlanta, but then, like I said, they're also seen across the state of Georgia and in different cities as well. I initially approached them about doing like a full half-hour Georgia Actors show, and the program director there was like, what we really need is shorter segments, like 2-minute, because they don't have commercials like a ABC, NBC, CBS, that type of thing. Yeah, and they primarily run like British shows, which are about 50 minutes long. So they have like 10 minutes or 8 minutes then that they have to fill till the top of the hour. So anyway, they said, we really need like 2-minute segments that we can plug in after our longer shows. So we've done interviews and cut them down to like 2-minute segments to give to them, and then they'll run them in between shows on their network. They kind of surprise us with, we don't really, they kind of choose them at random. It's like, okay, let's plug this one in and this one in, because they're just looking for content like that. So don't always know exactly when it's going to run. And I'll get pictures of people going, hey, I saw you on the television that they'll text to me. I was like, oh, great. Okay. But aside from that, we give them the first opportunity to kind of run those 2-minute interviews. And then after like a month or so, we release like the full interview on our YouTube channel, which if you just look up Georgia Actors on YouTube, you can see them and you'll get the full kind of produced interview that we do. It is great. And we're getting some decent views on there and talk to a wide array of people. Each of them always has some type of inspirational message or story. Just as I'm sure you guys have found out, just talking to people, there's some inspiration in learning about people and their journey, their creative journey to where they're going.
Is there some message that has come across from a guest on your show that you carry with you that's really prominent and you'd like to pass along?
Yes. I was thinking about this the other day. It was on episode with a friend of mine, Casey Holloway, who's a voiceover actress and book narrator, also actress and producer. She said in the episode, define your own success. Don't look to other people to kind of like be your inspiration for success. Oh, I need to be there like this person. Oh, my career should be up there like this person is. Define your own success. Like she had the realization one day. It was like, okay, well, I'm acting. I've done directing. I'm producing for this company. If I looked at where I am now from like 10 years ago, I'm doing pretty well, even though it doesn't feel like that. So that's the kind of message. It's like, I think we all get in a moment of, my career isn't going where I want it to be. I'm not doing as much. But when you take a broader look at, what you've done, whatever all of us have done, it's like, oh, I have accomplished a lot. I can call that a success, even though I may not have a Bentley in the driveway or anything like that. But is that the goal? Is that great line in Citizen Kane of it's no trick to make a lot of money if all you want is to make a lot of money. Citizen Kane is a film that came out in 1941.
For our vast youth audience again.
Can I find it at the library?
Yes, you probably can find it at the library. I love how I'm dropping Citizen Kane and Abbott and Costello into this. Anyway.
I think that's great advice, and it's important to always keep in mind that competition is very good. Iron sharpens iron. I'm glad that we have so many actors here, but we can't get into the habit of comparison.
Right.
Over comparison,
right.
It's so easy if you have Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. And you always have to understand that people are posting their highlight reels.
True.
They're not posting their low moments.
No.
So don't compare yourself to other people. So let's transition a little bit. Let's talk about Sketchworks.
Yes.
Let's talk about your work with Sketchworks. You are the head writer. Tell us a little bit about Sketchworks. What is it?
It's a sketch comedy company in the Atlanta area that's been performing regular shows since 2001 around town at different venues. They used to have their own theater for many years, but just economically that did not work out for them and found it was better to kind of perform at other theaters. Most recently, the Village Theater in Atlanta, which had been around for many years, but they had a change and they're no longer at their space. So we found another venue to kind of perform at. And it's gone through, a lot of changes in those 21 years. But it's fun. We also produce a weekly news parody show that we release on our socials and on YouTube, and it's streaming on this small streaming service called Mopefy TV. It's a news parody called Sketchworks News Break, which is an extension of one of the owners of Sketchworks would do during the show, like a little weekend update type stuff, that type of thing. So he would do that in the shows, called it News Break, BRAKE. The news stops here, like a car stopping. Yeah. That little thing. And in beginning of 2020, before everything shut down, we were like, oh, we should do little shorts right every week, do the short, release it on our socials and everything. And then over the pandemic, it was like, oh, this is then perfect. This is now our outlet because we can't do any live shows. Nobody can do any live shows. Everybody's home. So let's just do a weekly news parody thing on what's going on. And so that is still going on today. We just released one yesterday.
You have the show that you release weekly?
A news parody show released, every Tuesday, typically every Tuesday on our...
Wonderful. And you also have one-on-one virtual coaching. through Sketchworks, which is online. Obviously, it's virtual.
Right.
How effective is coaching online? Do you like that platform? Do you like operating over Zoom?
I enjoy it. It's mainly an opportunity for the person who signs up for the one-on-one to kind of ask questions and learn more. So it's not so much a class. It's more of a, I'm doing this. Can you look at this script that I wrote? Any pointers? What should I be? It's kind of like a crash course, if you will. Looking and talking with that person one-on-one to kind of go over different aspects of what they're doing and maybe things that they haven't thought about on how to hone their craft better and to kind of look at what they're doing and kind of offer advice on how they can do what they're doing better with increased regularity, all that kind of tips and tricks type of thing.
And let's talk about exactly how do you teach sketch comedy? Is there a teachable structure that you like to follow? How do you instruct someone that's new to this?
Well, it helps that they have like an interest in it. And typically I'll start like with the newer writers with showing examples and actually showing a sketch and what the script looked like to that sketch and kind of showing both at the same time so they can see how the dialogue looks to the video of the person actually saying it, so that they know that everything that is on the page is on the screen or on the stage or what have you. Typically, most of the people that have come through the sketch writing class have had some type of writing experience, script-wise, or a short play or something along those lines, or even stand-up. We've had some stand-ups. And for them, it was just kind of structuring it and thinking about their writing and doing it differently so that they can still utilize maybe some premise that they have for a stand-up bit, but how do you structure that and create that into like a scene with 2 or 3 actors, and that kind of process of doing it. But it's also a matter of, as I call it, kind of sticking your antenna up and thinking and looking at things as like inspiration for a sketch, something funny, because a lot of times the problem with sketches is, oh, you had to be there type thing. Well, okay, that's nice, but then how do you translate that so that everybody watching who doesn't know your friend Roger understands the scene and understands what's going on and how to communicate that to somebody who doesn't know all this information, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's process.
So options for actors, there's improv, there's stand-up, there's sketch comedy. Do these crafts bleed into each other as far as the qualities that make you effective?
They do. I think at the base, improv helps with sketch and helps with stand-up because it gets your mind kind of thinking in that humorous way and utilizing what you have around you to kind of make the scene better or humorous or funny, because there's not all improv is necessarily, it's a tool. It doesn't have to be used for comedy. It certainly helps with, scene work as well. But a lot of people equate it to comedy because there's so much, it's such an easy thing to do. And if you have that skill and enjoy it and like getting in front of an audience without a net, it's a great thrill. But it certainly lends itself. I did improv for many years, and it certainly lent itself to sketch, because when you're writing, you're almost writing improvisationally, coming up with the situations and the dialogue for the characters to say. It also helps to kind of know who your characters are so that they can kind of tell you what they're going to say. You'll know their reactions to things. So I think improv lends itself to both stand-up and sketch comedy.
And who are some of your sketch comedy heroes? If you have a new student who's very, very green to sketch comedy, mm-hmm. and if there's one that you had to recommend, one or two you had to recommend, where would you point a new student?
It's always easy to point to Saturday Night Live, just because they've been around for, coming up on 50 years now. And just the scope of talent that's come through there from everybody like Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Gilda Radner, right through Tina Fey and Anna Gasteyer and Amy Poehler and everybody. So it's a great source to kind of go to point to and go, here's a good resource to go to, and not only for inspiration, but also, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's talk about why that sketch didn't work for you.
Yeah, they're not all winners. And it is great that you can watch a show and pick it apart, apart the sketches and say, okay, what would I do a little bit differently here? How would I change this? And I always thought that it would be amazing to actually see it live. To be in the audience for that. There must be some sort of beauty to how quickly they're changing up the sets and actors are rushing off stage and completely changing their appearance. And you can go on YouTube as well, and Saturday Night Live releases a lot of their rehearsals as well, which is usually for the cast members will sit in, or writers will be sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch them perform and get no laughs.
Yeah.
And
right.
like, well, that's got to go. We got to cut that. And growing up, I had Saturday Night Live and Mad TV as two options. At the time, I didn't understand that Mad TV was not live because I was a child. And so there is such different energy to pre-recorded sketch versus live sketch.
Right.
What is your experience with those, and what do you prefer? Do you prefer something recorded that you can have the chance to edit, or do you like the energy of live performance?
They both have their merits, I feel. A friend of mine pointed out that all the successful sketch shows or popular ones have been on TV with an audience, like Mad TV, like SNL. There's some type of laughter coming from an audience to that, versus some other ones which don't have that. I don't know. I think a recorded sketch is a little bit more cinematic, if you will, and you can laugh at different points to it. But I know that something live, recorded, shown with that laughter kind of also informs the audience. Oh, I can laugh here. This is the joke. That type of thing, which is interesting. An interesting idea of having something there to tell an audience, laugh here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I should chuckle at that.
Yeah. It's interesting because it might be a sketch, but you do have to take in whether it's live or edited into consideration, because you can push a joke and make it land with editing. Live, nope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's also, as you mentioned, Joe, there's also an energy to doing it in front of an audience versus just, all right, 3, 2, take it, that type of thing. So there's a certain performance energy that'll come out of it. And playing the live stuff to the live audience versus a camera.
Yeah.
So they each have their own validity, and they each, are great in their own way. There's a different trick to it, I think, without an audience doing it on camera, where it's more here. The listeners don't know what I'm doing. It's smaller. You have to fit in that screen versus doing it for an audience, which is a vast, large group of people, hopefully.
Yeah.
Did that answer anything? I don't even know.
I think so. I think we got some nuggets in there.
I fell asleep.
So what can students learn at Sketchworks? What types of classes do you offer?
We offer a sketch writing class, usually 2 levels, and at the end of that, you're kind of in the Sketchworks writing pool. So you can submit to live shows, or our main stage shows. You can submit to Newsbreak, our weekly news parody show. You can also, if you have an idea for a show and want to direct it, you have that ability too. We also have acting classes, again, 2-level, intro and then advanced, also to kind of hone that on-stage presence of a sketch performer. So there's the acting and also the writing that Sketchworks offers. We also do a kids camp every summer, and the kids write the sketches, come up with their characters, perform the show, which is always amazing to me from the fact of, because I'll go in and help with some of the writing with the kids, but to see them go from that first, it's typically 2 weeks, to go from that first week where they're kind of green to then putting on like a live show at the end of the second week is always like, so yeah, there's a lot of that. We also have, as you mentioned, one-on-one coaching. It's a great opportunity to kind of learn and hone specifically sketch comedy.
So it's a great way for actors and students to learn about sketch comedy, but it's also, going back to networking, it's a community that you're building. So you can be within these classes, but then that can also lead into, okay, I'm directing a show as well, and these are the people that I like to collaborate with.
Right.
So it's not just a class and you're done.
No, not at all. Yeah, you're definitely once you complete the classes, you're definitely taken in, and if you want to participate, maybe you don't. That's fine too. But yeah, if you want to be part of the Sketchworks Comedy, you're welcomed into it to write, to act, to direct if you want to go off and even direct a film piece of a sketch that one of the writers has written. And it is a collaborative, and you will meet other people. And I've gotten other work out of the people that I've met involved with Sketchworks, and I've tried to give work to people that I know in Sketchworks. So it's very helpful. It is a networking opportunity as well, expanding your tribe.
Yeah, and that's important. Gotta do that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about your writing, your acting in shows that you've created. Tell us a little bit about Vape.
Vape is a modern parody of Grease. What happened is a lot of people involved, or a number of people involved with Sketchworks, went to see a performance of Grease in 2016, I think it was. And they enjoyed it, but also noticed that there's some questionable and out-of-date notions in Grease, certainly. And so one of the women who was there, Katie Hogan, she got inspired to write like a modern parody of Grease, which was originally called Lube. But as the script went on, Vape made so much more sense.
Yeah.
Since it is kind of modern.
I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, lube was still a thing in the 70s and
Yes.
the time period that Grease is in.
Yeah.
The 50s. Lube's been around for a while. Vape, not so much.
No, but because it's a modern Grease parody, Vape.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Good. So we performed it in Atlanta for 4 performances here, and we got Broadway World Atlanta Best Non-Professional Work Award for putting it on, and we were all excited about it. It was so interesting because we'd rehearsed it so long and so close to it, as you guys may know, that you start to then question: God, I know this text so well, and is this going to be entertaining for anybody? Is anybody going to like this? So I was anyway at that point when we went into it, but then. I've never been involved with a show where like the moment lights went up and the actors came out, it was laughter and connection. It was like, okay, I feel better. This is definitely gonna work, and it did really work. So then we booked a venue in New York that had us up. Actually, they were Improv Asylum. Now they're called Asylum NYC, and they were gonna have us up for 3 nights in 2019. And I started, sending our press release out to any email I could find of producers and journalists and reporters and colleges, all that kind of stuff, to try to get the word out. We had 3 producers interested in coming to see the performance and had them on the list. And then 10 days before we were supposed to open up, we got a cease and desist from Concord Theatrical, the rights holders to Grease, saying it violated their copyright. Even though we've always said that this is a parody of Grease on everything we've put out. Never had tried to put this across as being Grease. So the owners of Sketchworks they sued Concord Theatrical for preventing us from freedom of speech to perform this parody. And 3 years later, the judge in Lower Manhattan finally said, you won. This is a parody. You can perform it without any disruption from from Grease because you're doing a parody. And yay, we did it again here in Atlanta at Village Theater, and then also at Aurora Theater in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And we've booked again at a different venue in New York because the Improv Asylum is going through some renovation. So we're actually booked at the People's Improv Theater in New York in August the 24th, 26th, and 27th. So we'll be going up there to perform it.
Amazing.
Finally, at long last.
And can I ask why did it take 3 years? Was a big part of that COVID?
A big part of that was COVID, yes. And there were a couple opportunities where the judge was like, okay, I'm giving you a month to kind of negotiate. And the Grease people were just like, no, we don't want this performed. You're not going to win. We're not going to negotiate. So it was just crazy. I mean, we had been even like things like, well, you know, pay for our legal fees and give us some money and we'll put this script in a drawer and never perform it again. We can change the name, you know, all these options. But they were like, no, you're not gonna win this. We're just not interested. And
we're Grease. Yeah, no. I'm glad they pushed back on that because then we wouldn't be here. And honestly, shout out to Chief Judge Laura Taylor Swain. I'll call her Chief. And I will also call her awesome because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have seen the show. And I love the show. And I saw it twice at Village Theater.
Yes, you did.
And it was amazing. But she said, and I quote, Vape transformed Grease by updating it for the #MeToo era and exposing its misogynistic tendencies. Yeah. And her decision was 22 pages long.
Right. Yeah.
That's insane.
It is. To think about, you know, all this work on the legal end going into this stupid little parody show of Grease that, you know. But, yeah, I do give credit to Brian Troxel and Julie Scher, the owners of Sketchworks Comedy, who had a conversation like, well, are we going to go forward and sue them? And hopefully anybody behind us that, you know, has the same type of situation, we're having a precedent and, you know, we may not win, you know, you never know. And there were moments there was like, oh, this isn't, you know, we don't know how this is going to turn out, but give them credit. They fought for it. And I'm glad that they did. The hardest part for me, because in the beginning they were like, well, we need examples of why this is a parody. This is our attorney saying, you know, we need to provide them examples of what this, and it's basically dissecting a joke and why it's funny and why it's parodying something else. And that was the hardest thing to try to, oh God, I got to type out why this is humorous.
Yeah. Well,
it's so difficult.
And she said that Vape was transformative. That's the word she used.
Yes.
Transformative of the original material.
Right.
And she gave an example on the opposite side of that. Andy Warhol painting over a picture of Prince, and the work wasn't transformative. So that's still in
Yes.
the courts, I believe. That hasn't been, but that was her example, the work not being transformative. But with Vape, it was.
Yes, because there were several. So Katie Hogan wrote the full script, but then there were like 5 transition areas that she just put. We weren't sure if those all were going to be video transitions or a live stage transition. She just put in scene transition. And then in rehearsal, the director turned to me and goes, so you can write those scene transitions? I guess I can. I guess I'll do that. And so those were of the characters, but had nothing to do with Grease itself. They were just the characters doing different little scenes. So that's part of the transformative thing that the judge was talking about. It's a lot of it is, you know, direct parody, but it wasn't like we were taking the same Grease script and just saying them with different inflection or anything like that.
Have the legal issues that you've gone through these past few years, are they going to affect the way that you write moving forward, the way that you think about projects you want to write or produce?
Only if it's a direct like parody of something. It would, because now we know, okay, something in here has to be transformative.
Yeah. You do always have to have a legal mind as well when you're forming these scripts. It's not a fun part of being an artist. There's roadblocks as an artist that come up. So how are you feeling about the New York trip?
I'm looking forward to it because it was set up in 2019, and we booked it in the spring, or it was announced in the spring, and so we had to go through all the summer, and so I was really kind of pumped. I sent out like 150 emails to people just to get interest into it, and so I was really excited about going there and actually performing in New York City. So now I'm really excited because now there's nothing going to stop the performance. I'm sorry to say that, which is why I knocked on the table here, dear listeners.
Our table's made of wood.
Yes. So really looking forward to going up and doing the show at People's Improv Theater, and we're excited about bringing it up there and performing it and making them laugh in New York. And let's see what happens to the life of Vape with that exposure, and where it can go from here.
Yeah, congratulations on the
you.
show that you said that's August 24th.
August 24th, August 26th, and August 27th. And you can go to sketchworkscomedy.com and take a look at all that information about classes, one-on-one, about Vape in New York, about our upcoming shows here in Atlanta.
That's amazing.
I'm excited for you, man.
Thank
Seriously.
you.
Like I said, I saw it twice. If I had money, I would come to New York and see it again. I'm dead serious. Dead serious.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Plus bagels and
Plus
pizza.
bagels and pizza.
But mostly Vape.
Well, we'd like to end each podcast episode with asking our guest if there is just a piece of advice that you could pass along to a young actor, a young creative. What piece of advice would you pass along?
I would say don't be afraid to create your own opportunities, whatever that is for you as a creative. You're going to, even if you don't know everything about it, like, oh, I'm going to stage something. Well, I don't really know all about, just get in there and do it and talk to people who have done it to learn about it. Get in there and put your voice out there, I would say. Work on something that you're passionate about, that you're going to spend money on, maybe not make any money back on it, but you're going to learn about yourself in doing it. You're going to learn more about what it takes to produce something and all the trials and everything that goes into that. So you'll have a greater appreciation for a finished product that somebody's able to make, because you have kind of experienced in a way that process and how difficult it is to not only get something made, but wrangling people together to get them involved in it. So I think that's it, is make your own opportunities, create your own content. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and about the process and draw a greater understanding. You also learn if, oh, wow, I don't like doing this at all.
Yeah.
There's that too. And there's no shame in throwing the towel in and realizing in yourself, like, this isn't for me after all. Maybe I should do
some. Make your own content. Just do it with the caveat of research, copyright, and parody law.
Exactly.
That's also important.
That is also important. Yeah.
Lessons learned. I love that. I love it. So we've talked about a lot today. I'm going to give you the opportunity now. Where can people find out more about you, these different organizations that you work for? Plug what you got.
We got Performing Arts Education of Georgia, our nonprofit. You can go to paega.org and learn more and donate if you're so inclined. That'll help us with our mission in reaching out, producing more content. But more importantly, as I was mentioning, our next goal of getting into more schools and that direct contact with people working in the industry, with students who are interested in learning more about it and have a passion about it. So there's paega.org. There's also sketchworkscomedy.com to learn about, and that's what's great about the writing class is virtual. So you could I've had a guy who's in Ohio. We have a writer who's in Michigan, and we have another writer who is in India that would get up at 5 a.m. her time to join our writers meeting 7 p.m. our time.
That's commitment.
That is commitment, yeah. And she's written some very interesting stuff and has it's a different perspective because she lives in a completely different country. So sketchworkscomedy.com, learn about classes, learn about sketch comedy, learn about our shows, upcoming shows, not only in Atlanta, but coming up in New York in August.
This is all amazing. Thank you so much for stopping in today to talk to us about all of this.
Thank you both for
You're officially a friend of the show.
Oh, perfect. I get a badge.
Open door invitation for you. We want to hear about how it went in
perfect.
in New York City.
Yeah.
If we have any listeners in New York, we encourage you, please go check out the show. That is August 24th is the first day.
August 24th is the first day. You go to the Sketchworks website to learn more, and we'll be at the People's Improv Theater in New York.
Amazing. Thank you so much for stopping by today, John.
Thank you both for having me.
Of course, man.